No, we should be getting rid of that debt. So everybody take out your wallet and your purse, give it to the people in front of you, and then let them just give whatever the Lord places on their heart, all right? Listen, by the way, we have a dynamic youth ministry here, and Zach and Chuck, they're amazing. They work with our children, they work with our youth. But there was a lock-in here Friday night at the church. 80-some teenagers all came together. They were locked into church. Well, at some point, they escaped, and they went to my house with 200 pink flamingos. They are everywhere, all over my yard. And so here's what I want to say. Love it. I love our teenagers. I love their sense of humor. I didn't let it ruffle my feathers. But I am going to have to put my foot down. Are you there with me? Man, my talent is wasted in Lincoln, Illinois. I'll just tell you. If you would like some, by the way, today, if your children would like some, minute church is over, go out, take all you want, make sure you pull out the little legs. There's wire legs. I don't want to mow over those, but I can't take care of my leaves with all of those everywhere, and I don't want to clean them up. And so you're free to go get all you want and take them, and I mean that. And if you don't know where I live, come and I'll give you my address, and bring some baked goods with you too. But anyway, just come on out. Most of us know the story of the prodigal son. Most of us do. There's a son. He goes to his father. I want my inheritance early. The father reluctantly gives him his inheritance. He goes off to a far land. He squanders it all. When he comes to his senses, all he wants is to be able to come home back to his father. Now, the father's been pacing the gate for this moment. He's been waiting for this. He's been hoping for this moment. He's been praying for his son to return to him. And so he's been looking down this long lane, waiting for his child to come home. He's just waiting somewhere down that lane to see the figure of a man walking. He'll recognize the boy's shape. He knows his son's stroll. And when he sees it, he climbs over the gate and runs to his son and greets him and welcomes him back. Pacing the Gate is a series. This is what we've called it. For all of our first-timers, this is a phrase I got from my grandfather. He knew to fight worry because Jesus said, don't worry in this world. And he knew that he had to wait on the Lord because we're told not to worry, but to wait, to learn to wait. And so my grandfather, whenever he was in that moment where anxiety could get the best of him, he described himself as pacing the gate. He's pacing the gate. Animals do that all the time. We've seen animals in cages and they're pacing. Why? Because they're caged. That's so unnatural to be in that moment. To be overcome with anxiety is not natural for us. That's not something God wanted for you and I. But we've all done it, right? Of course we have. We've all worried. If you've worried, it doesn't mean that you're not a Christian. You're still a Christian. Not a good one, but you're still... No, I'm just kidding. That's just a joke. We've all worried. Anxiety is something that falls on even the most faithful person, but that's not what God wanted for us. So God, through Jesus and the Holy Spirit, often said, I don't want you to worry about this world. But I want you to move over to where you learn to wait on the Lord. And so today, many of us are pacing the gate. I am as well. What is God trying to do in our lives? Why would he say, I don't want worry, when so many of his people in the Bible had moments of intense anxiety? Even Jesus had a moment just before the cross in the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus is praying and trying to move his heart to trust God. He's doing his best. He coins a phrase that means a lot to us this day. It's one of the most challenging prayers to pray. This is found in Matthew 26. Jesus says, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death, but not my will be done, yours be done. Wow, I want to be able to pray that and trust God. That's not an easy prayer, especially when you're faced in a moment of death. King David, he wasn't afraid to confess his fear and anxiety through several Psalms. He talks about it. Psalm 56, when I am afraid, I put my trust in you. Boy, you talk about pacing the gate. Some of you will identify with his life. King David had a child that was born, a son, who was very sick. And David prayed and prayed and prayed. He paced the gate for that newborn child all night long, still to have that child pass. David wiped the tears from his face. He stood up. He lifted his chin. He took in a deep breath. And he moved forward. That's what we do. Even when we're standing in a cemetery. Oh, pray, absolutely pray. Beg God not to take a life. We do that all the time. But you can't force the arm of God. This isn't a moment where you're wrestling with your brother and trying to force him into saying mercy. God's hand can't be forced, and he's going to do what's best. What's best for the person who's ill, what's best for you, what's best for your family. And you might be sitting there saying, how can this be the best thing? That's where trust comes in. You and I, on our spiritual journeys, we have to learn to grow in trust, especially when God has us waiting. Oh my goodness, is there anything worse than being in a moment of limbo where you're waiting for some important report, some important news? News of a job offer, news of a biopsy, news of a child's well-being. When you're waiting in that moment, that's excruciating. Nobody likes to be put on hold, but God does that occasionally. Drives me crazy when you call a business and they put you on hold. And what really frustrates me is when they play that calm music to try to calm you down. That just makes it even worse. And then that automated voice comes on. Would you like to continue to hold? No. Thank you, we'll be right with you, and put you on hold. Some of you have such tenacity, you don't give up. You hold and hold and hold. There's people in here, you've been on hold for 3 days, and here you are. And sometimes God puts us on hold. Jesus will do that to 2 sisters. Wait a minute, what? Of all people, Jesus? Yeah, he'll put Mary and Martha on hold. Here's the word. Mary and Martha's brother Lazarus, whom Jesus is very close friends with, Lazarus gets sick and he's dying. And the girls send message to Jesus. Your good friend Lazarus is sick, our brother. Hurry. That's the word. And Jesus, catch this, purposefully delays. Wait, what? Purposefully delays. And don't think that ministry was so busy he couldn't get away. Don't think for a moment that his flight was canceled. None of that happened. He could have gotten there, but he purposefully delays. Why? He gives us the reason. This story is found in John chapter 11, but look at verse 4. Jesus says this is happening. This thing with Lazarus is happening for God's glory so that God's Son may be glorified through it. Jesus told his disciples, Lazarus will die, but I'm going there to bring him back to life. And so Jesus holds back for a couple extra days. Sure enough, Lazarus dies. We pick up this story then in verse 17. When Jesus got to Bethany, Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Bethany was only 2 miles from Jerusalem. Wait. Now you know why the girls are going to be upset. He was just 2 miles away. You can walk 2 miles in less than an hour. We sent word to you. Where were you? He doesn't come. But now he's here, and he says, this is going to not only glorify the Father, it's going to bring glory to me. Verse 20, when Martha heard that Jesus had arrived, she went out to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Oh, my goodness. Stop for a moment. Every other story that has Jesus with Mary and Martha and Lazarus, guess what? He's always invited into the house. This time he's not. Martha goes outside. And Mary, right at first, she doesn't even go outside. She's got attitude against Jesus, you know. And when she finally steps outside, she's not happy. Where you been, Jesus? Huh? Mr. 4 days late, where you been? No, you put that funeral food away. He don't get no plate. You know I'm mad at you, right, Jesus? Mary has a broken heart. Her brother just died, and in that culture, that would have been devastating. And she has a broken heart. If only you had been here, Jesus. Where were you? Jesus appears to be too late. But Mary and Martha have misinterpreted the situation. I was in a gas station. Two ladies were behind me talking, and I thought they were talking about me, and one of them said, "He's amazing." And so I kind of turned around with a grin, and obviously I'd misinterpreted the situation. They were not talking about me, and they looked at me like, "How dare you get involved in our conversation?" And so, anyway, verse 23, Jesus told Martha, "Your brother will live again." Martha said, "Oh, I know he'll be raised to life in the last day when the dead are raised." Verse 25, Jesus then said, "No, I'm the resurrection and the life. Everyone who believes in me will live, even if they die, and everyone who lives because of faith in me will never really die." Do you believe this? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, look at that question. I think Jesus is asking that of you today. Do you believe in the resurrection? It changes everything when you're pacing the gate in a cemetery or by a grave, or when somebody's in the hospital. Now, we pray for them to live, but what if they don't? And that causes a lot of worry and anxiety. But in this moment, this question is huge. It is the difference maker when it comes to cemeteries like that. Well, after this moment, you have a very, very tender verse. It's the shortest verse in the Bible. It's verse 35. And it just simply says, by the way, you don't just read that verse. You feel that verse. My emotions almost got the best of me. I was in a cemetery for a graveside service for a family I didn't know well, but I got there early. I was wandering around a little bit through some of the stones, and that's when I saw it. A little stone that just said Baby Williams, born and died December 10th, 1927. And I stood there for a while, and it suddenly dawned on me, almost 100 years ago, a mom on a cold day stood right here and cried. The grass that was green was watered by her tears, and it was just so overwhelming for a moment. Jesus weeps, and why would he weep if he knows he's going to bring Lazarus back to life? Why would he weep? Because he allowed himself to feel what you feel when you're standing in a cemetery. He allowed himself to feel grief for a moment, and it was so overwhelming, it was so hard, he just starts crying. But then, he takes the whole group, the sisters, everyone who's there from town. We're going to the cemetery, and he walks them out to the cemetery. There's a tomb with a big stone in front of it. He says, roll the stone back. Don't do that, Jesus. He says, roll it back. And they roll the stone back. And then Jesus in this cemetery yells out, Lazarus, come forth. My people have heard me say this many times, but for all of our newbies, Jesus had to be very specific and call him out by name. If Jesus stands in any cemetery and simply says, come forth, every grave burst open. You understand that? The power of the word of Jesus. When he looked at blind eyes and he said, I need you to see now, blind eyes could see. When he looked at lame legs and said, I need you to walk, lame legs walked. When he looked at bodies that were covered in leprosy and he said, be healed, those bodies were immediately healed. When he looked at an ocean that was in turmoil and said, shh, be still, that sea went quiet immediately. When he stands over a body and says, get up, little girl, that little girl gets up. The power of his word. And he says, Lazarus, come forth. And out from that tomb comes Lazarus, alive and well. And he gives him back to his family. You know, here's an interesting twist that a lot of people don't know in this story, but I'll share it with you. This is all in John chapter 11, but the very next chapter, 12, verse 10, look it up later. In verse 10, because of the testimony of Lazarus' resurrection for Jesus, the religious leaders of that time, they're not only plotting to kill Jesus, guess what? They start plotting to kill Lazarus again. It's right there in the Bible. What could you ever do to Lazarus to freak him out and make him worry ever again after what he's been through? Nothing. Really? You're going to go to Lazarus and say, we're going to kill you? You know, I've done that, but all right. I mean, what's his attitude going to be? Really? Yeah, let's do that. I was in heaven. But Jesus needed me back here, so he called me back. But you want to take my life? Yeah, let's go. There's nothing you could bring upon him anymore. And the same thing is true of you and I. If we really believe, do you believe this? Jesus asked, I'm the resurrection and I am the life. Connecting to him, it gives us life. It gives us the ability to move forward. It gives us courage. It gives us strength. It gives us boldness. Even when we've been crushed by a death, it lets us move forward. Death thought it had the last word. No, Jesus has the last word. And the last word is, come forth. You believe this, don't you? When you're pacing the gate, and we're all going to pace the gate, we can fight off worry knowing that Jesus is the resurrection. And it doesn't matter how bad things might go here in this world, we get a brand new life. We get to go with him. By the way, even people Jesus loves get sick and die. You know that, right? Lazarus, he loved Lazarus, but even he got sick and died. And death is not proof that Jesus doesn't love you. It's just the opposite. It's proof that he does love you. Because when death comes, it releases us from this world. And we're carried into his arms. It releases us from this pain, and we're carried into a world of bliss. It releases us from all this hurt and struggle, and it carries us into a world of eternal joy. Death is hard, but what it carries and opens the door for is amazing. And so when you're pacing the gate, you remember. You hold on to the words of Jesus. He is the resurrection. And even if someone dies, they live. They don't really die. Your loved ones are still living right now. And they're looking forward to seeing you again. You believe this, don't you? I asked Lauren to work up a song that I found that meant a lot to me, and he and the band have done an amazing job with it. I'm waiting, even though it's painful, I'm waiting. And I'm moving forward, confident and bold, I'm moving forward. And you know what? I'm going to still worship God, and I'm still going to serve him, and I'm going to finish the race that's in front of me. I've got my own race to finish. And I'm going to do it waiting on the Lord. Could that be your song today?